Hey everybody, here is the grumpy Scotsman coming at you with another watch review. And what we have today is none other than the SQUALE GMT 30 Atmos Ceramica. And I'm telling you, that is like a large ass title. Crazy title. This particular watch, I can definitely give you an unbiased review on this because I have wore this for a couple years. I don't wear it anymore, but yeah, I've wore it a lot. I wore this steady for, I shouldn't say a couple years. I've wore it steady for like probably a year and a half, nearly 2 years. It's a pretty unique watch. So the thickness on this particular model is 13.5. So it's thicker. It has curved lugs, a pretty thick bracelet. As you can see, look at that bracelet. I wore this thing to work. I wore it everywhere. It was spared nothing. I beat it up. It took a lot of abuse. You can just see I nearly even wore that back plate off there. Yeah, it is crazy. It has screwed in bracelet there. I did have an issue when I first started wearing it, that the screws would start working themselves out naturally. So I had to get some Loctite and put it on the threading and put it back in. And when I did that, it didn't have any more issues. It's kind of a gamble when you do that, because if you put too much Loctite on, it's not gonna come back out, and you're gonna almost thread and destroy the screw. So that is one downside of screwed in links that I find, is that they'll play themselves out if you don't put Loctite on, but then if you put too much on, it'll screw it. No pun intended. So I've always kind of liked push pins a little bit more. Never had any issues with push pins ever. Has a very basic double clasp on there. Nothing special. There's really nothing special. And then the back, let me see. The back of the case is very simple. It's your 1545 stylization SQUALE case. So just very basic, tells you little things about the watch, nothing special. Now let's get into kind of the nuts and bolts of this. A few things that this watch does really well is it is built like a tank. You can literally beat this watch up and it'll be okay. It is built to take on a lot. There's nothing fragile about it. Even the ceramic bezel insert on it. However, I'm going to tell you right now, if you were to macro in on this bezel insert, it's pretty beat up. There's a lot of scratches. You might even be able to catch it with my camera on. See, you can see where my my glove is kind of stroking along the bezel there. It's all scratched and beat up. So it took a beating, that's for sure. The sapphire crystal's okay. They use a really nice sapphire crystal. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, let's get into it. So the screw down crown is impeccable on this watch. It is smooth as butter. It threads back on like just as good or better than a Rolex. and pops out, has little to no play once it's fully extended for changing time. And then like it literally threads back on and has absolutely no issues. So kudos to them for that. It is a signed crown. It has their old school crown, or sorry, logo on there. I think it's a propeller and it says lion. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to recollect here. It's been many a moon since I wore this watch. But yeah, very cool. I love it when watch manufacturers sign a crown. It's just, it seems proper. Yeah, and it has very pronounced crown guards on there, which I always appreciate on a dive watch. It has applied logo or applied indices, and the Lumelite or Chromolite or whatever they're using in there. It doesn't last very long. It's very, very subpar. If you want my honest opinion on that, it, like, you could fully charge it. It might last just a brief handful of minutes in a very dark area and then basically fade into nothingness. So I don't even know why they bother. I mean, if you're just gonna put a shitty glowing indice Lumibright or whatever in there, don't even bother. It's not even worth it. The bezel is very nice. The ceramic bezel on this, the insert, it is it's not cut deep or anything like you would find in a Rolly, but it's done well. And they applied a white ceramic in there, so it's very bright. It pops and it works well. The bezel to turn it is hard and stiff. Like if you've ever handled one of these and you tried to turn the bezel on it, you got to apply a lot of pressure and you have to be very meaningful to want to do it, because there's no ease into it. And a lot of people complain about stuff like that, but that particular thing I like, because when you go to turn it and then put it somewhere where you want to remember a time on a GMT time, it's nice to look down at your wrist and know that you didn't accidentally hit the bezel and it turned on its own accord. I don't know. I only like a bezel moving when I mean to turn it, but that's just a personal preference. I know a lot of people live and die on the hill of having a beautiful sounding bezel action and feeling action, and sometimes they base purchases of a watch off of that. But for me, I like a stiff bezel. So, and on the dial, so I'm going to get into one thing about this watch. This is one glaring thing for me, and this is a reason just on a personal basis as to why I stopped wearing this watch. One is the thickness. It's a little thick for me. I don't know. I appreciate watches under 12. And so this watch is quite a bit over that. And another thing, and the most prominent thing, is the name SQUALE. I don't like the name. And personally, even the way they did this with a slight, it's all caps and it's done in like a really modern look where it's slanted. It doesn't work. I don't know. The name SQUALE is horrible. It's in another language. What is it again? Not French, but is it Italian? No, I don't know. But it's supposed to mean shark. I don't know. And maybe it's just my pure ignorance of that I like my own and prefer my own language. But if it just said shark or something, I don't know, that would be a lot better. But SQUALE, I don't know. Even to say it, it sounds shitty. And maybe that's extremely shallow of me, and it probably is. But these are our own preferences, right? And so I'm just being very honest here. I really don't like the name of it. It's a horrible name, you know. It's a beautiful watch, and they did an amazing job. The dial, they hit it out of the park. This is very much a homage watch. Obviously, this watch resembles quite a bit like a Rolly, let's be honest. But they did a good job of it. The date magnifier even is 2.5. Like you can see it fills the entire date magnifier. They did a good job of that. Very minimalist look, text on dial. The GMT red combined with the GMT red hand just looks amazing. For the most part, they did a pretty good job of the case. There's some things that I don't like the knurling on the bezel could be better. The slab side case could have used a little bit of actual, I don't know, machining, like angle or something. It's just a slab. So there's a few things. In most part, they really did well with this watch. Like I said, I used it and wore it to work and wore it out when I was doing recreational things, and I never had any problems. It's got an ETA 2824 in it, which is no, sorry, I'm wrong there. It's got a 2893-2, I think, for the GMT. And so the movement itself is nice and slim and accurate, and ETA did a beautiful job with that. I think they came out with that in the late 70s, early 80s, and it's been a huge piece in their repertoire ever since. But yeah, so the movement in this watch, second to none. I love it. Anytime a GMT uses it. I had a Omega that had a 2893-2, and that watch too always told amazing time, never lost time. It wasn't a noisy movement either, so you'd never hear the rotor swinging around, which is, I appreciate that. That's kind of all I gotta say about this watch, you guys. When you buy these watches, they come in like a blue little watch roll. You get your warranty in there. It has a pouch which the watch sits in. Has a canvas, nice slim canvas case that the watch roll sits in. So their presentation when you purchase it is very nice. It's not over the top, but it's kind of their own thing, and I think that's cool. And that's all I got to say about her. And cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my banter and spending this time with me. Cheers.